Coming up.
We are super excited to have Dr. Ben on here because he is going to talk to us about tongue tie releases, but also a really awesome conference coming up that Kimmy and I will be at called Tequila and Tongue Ties. I don't think it could be a better named conference, to tell you the truth, Dr. Ben.
It pretty much sums it all up. It's a little fun and a lot of learning, and it all comes together really good. Yeah, so we can be in Scottsdale, and it's gonna be in April, and then it's a Friday and Saturday. It's gonna be the 21st and 22nd of April. Easy fly into Phoenix, take a little trip up to Scottsdale. It's at a beautiful resort there. We're there all day Friday and a half a day Saturday. On Friday, we've got lectures going on in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we've got hands-on. And then after that, after the hands-on, we've got a tequila tasting with a tequila master. And then we've got a fiesta party that evening. So with a live DJ going until 11 or 12 at night, it'll be fun. And then we wake up the next morning and we've got lectures in the morning. We're finished by lunchtime. So it's a pretty great, well-organized event there as far as that goes. And there's an open bar at breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It's $9.95 for the team, okay? And then if you bring somebody who is non-clinical, or if you bring your spouse or family member just to cover the meals, it's an extra $99 for them.
How can we be able to get more of this information out there? How can we be able to help more providers provide more access to the patients in their areas? But also, how can we make it fun, where it can be something that's, not so mundane, but something that can be kind of like an exciting thing to get to go to?
Kimmy and I are both going to be there the whole time. We're super, super excited to connect. We're going to plan to do some lives while we're there, so you guys can get like kind of a little backstage scene of like what we're doing. We're going to be hanging out after the conference, probably in the hotel bar for anybody else who has more questions. And
we want to invite you to the first annual Munch Bunch Wellness and Rejuvenation Retreat in the Dominican Republic, November 9th through the 12th, 2023. It will be an all-inclusive retreat meant to refuel you, give you a chance to rest, relax, and network with others in our Munch Bunch family. We will also be talking about ways to get out of your own way so you can live your dreams, build your business, and do what you need to do. So check it out. The link is in the description, and the dates are November 9th through the 12th.
Welcome to the Munch Bunch podcast. I am your co-host, Megan Vanoy, dental hygienist, myofunctional therapist with my favorite person in the whole world, Kimmy Nishimoto, also dental hygienist, myofunctional therapist. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Ben Curtis. His practice is Curtis Kids Dentistry. He's in Canton, Texas. Woohoo!
Mm-hmm.
About an hour east of Dallas, which is awesome, and also where one of my favorite people in the whole world lives. And we are super excited to have Dr. Ben on here because he is going to talk to us about tongue tie releases, but also a really awesome conference coming up that Kimmy and I will be at called Tequila and Tongue Ties. I don't think it could be a better named conference, to tell you the truth, Dr. Ben.
It pretty much sums it all up. It's a little fun and a lot of learning, and it all comes together really good.
I love it. I love it. So before we start grilling you about all things tequila and like a little bit tongue tie, Kimmy is going to Kimmy's going to shuffle, and you're actually going to decide what our affirmator is. So Kimmy, hold the lever, shuffle the cards.
So tell me when, Dr. Ben.
All right. Go ahead. There.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. So we got a little bear on a walk.
Yes.
And it's taking a walk. Wandering legs produce a wandering mind, which, as it turns out, can actually be great for wandering out of whatever mental mud I'm stuck in. So I'm going to pull on my jauntiest cap and jauntily jaunt the heck out of here. Could that be the tiny creative spark I've been missing has been hiding out on the other side of my wall of sticky notes? Irony received. There's a lot to that.
Speaking of a wall of sticky notes, you know that I like literally have a wall of sticky notes, right?
Impressive. Impressive.
Like I will lift up my computer because it's funny. Because I literally have like yeah, and I'm in the process since we just finished Q1. I'm in the process of like updating my sticky notes. So usually there's like way more on there. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, Dr. Ben, tell us more about you. Tell us about your practice. Tell us what made you even want to just start releasing tongue ties in East Texas. Tell us more.
So I've been practicing in Dallas, Texas for probably about 6 years. I did my dental school there in Dallas. I was fortunate enough to stay and do my pediatric residency there in Dallas. And then I went into private practice there in Dallas afterwards. And really in residency at the time, there was no information at all about tongue ties. And thankfully, since then, that's really come to more of the forefront for things. We've got a lot more information out there to help, young doctors, but also more experienced ones be able to understand and appreciate those sorts of things. But really back when we started doing it, there was no one doing these, or there were very few, in the actual information or kind of tactile things you could get your hands on to learn from were nothing. So really we started that before there was really anything. So I always like to say we were kind of a bunch of mavericks at the time trying to figure out that. We could see that there was such a need there. It was before Richard Baxter had released his book Tongue Ties, we didn't have that to kind of spring forward and open up the minds of people. And so realistically, I joined a practice that had a laser, that had bought a laser, and the owner doctor had really been open-minded about the things it could do and how it could help our patient population. And we served an exceedingly international patient population. So we had patients that came from all over the world, from all over different cultures, not just our American norm. And they had different views of things than what we had. And some of those were very forward about tongue ties, and how in their cultures back home, that was something that was expected to be done or needed to be done, where in our American culture, it's almost kind of the opposite. It's like, why do I need to do this? But in their culture, sometimes it was, why would you not do this? Because you have to think third world country and survival. And if you had a tongue tie or a lip tie and you weren't able to breastfeed, then that was not a survival thing. You needed to have it released. So that was really eye-opening for us within our population there. And really that's where my passion for kind of education for these things has come from, for us to really learn from each other, from what we're doing and how we do things and how other people are doing it from around the nation. And that's really what sprung forward this idea of tequila and tongue tie, is more of just being able to help people get information that they need, but also in a fun way as well. So that's kind of my journey from nothing to a lot within a short time frame there of a few years, of really being able to appreciate that, this is something that a lot of people are needing, not just in our little communities, but for people around the world.
Yeah, I love that. So that was that's how I started too, right? You guys all know that on the story here. Like I launched my practice in 2016, and there was no one around. Luckily I had Dr. Gahiri in my town,
Yeah.
But that's it. Now it's completely changed. And so that's how I started my telehealth practice. Was I same boat as you. We have people reaching out internationally. We saw people all over the world, because they just don't have anybody else. So I'm, sounds like we have pretty parallel stories, being, kind of the odd ones out, and now like we're cool, right? Like
Well, and then I left Dallas and came to East Texas. So Dallas is now like a mecca of lots of things. There's world-renowned pediatric dentists in Dallas, so like we went from being the only ones doing it to like everyone's doing it. So the services were thankfully able to get a lot of people doing those, to get a lot more people access to this care. And now I've moved more to a rural area where I'm the only pediatric dentist in about a 60-mile radius probably from us.
Wow.
Probably at least 40-minute drive to an hour drive. And so there's a lot of need out here, and there's not a lot of resources and the access to care is really low. And so definitely being able to come to a community where there's so much need is really impactful there for myself personally, but also for my patient population and community as well. So we feel really blessed to be able to bring that to a different part of the country too.
Yeah, it's so needed.
We want to introduce the Spot for Tots course, a parent's guide for toddlers ages 2 to 5 for Mini Mayo. We have Megan and Kimmy going over nasal hygiene, myofunctional exercises, breathing exercises, tongue-tie healing protocols, and then we have Jenny June going over sleep hygiene, and Kelsey Baker going over feeding therapy and body work. The course is $297, and the link will be in the description.
So when you were talking about how people would come internationally and they would teach you basically things about why they would seek out tongue tie, I'm curious, was one of them Brazil? Because I've heard that Brazil has like amazing tongue tie protocols for their babies.
Actually, that's really interesting. I mean, we had patients literally from around the world. And the one that was most memorable that I had actually came from Africa. We had a hefty amount of African patients that literally would come to Dallas on work visas, and we were right close to the airport. So we had patients from around the world that were brilliant, that were coming to Texas to come into the US to work and to be part of, corporations and industry and stuff like that for their families. And so we had a family from Africa that came to America, delivered a baby here, and then brought it to our office. And we're like, why are you here? You got issues? They're like, no feeding problems, nothing. But in our country or in our tribal life, you get a baby, is delivered, you have a tongue tie release, like the midwife or, the medical provider in your tribe or your community or your town would immediately release the lip and the tongue. And we're like, what? Why? Like, well, why would you not? Like, it helps the baby feed better. And we're like, well, in America, we look at it a little differently. So it's very eye-opening to me because I'm like, oh, like, it's just a different way of thinking about it because we think about it so much more in a different way coming from a first world perspective, but coming from, perhaps a more third world or a more tribal or a more remote rural aspect of things, the access to care is so limited. And, the survival is really of the ones that are able to get that care. And they have seen over time that babies that have lip and tongue tie releases at birth soon do much better than the ones that don't. So it was a standard of care in their tribal community. And so it was a very interesting conversation to be able to have, sitting in our first world situation,
Yeah. I've had a handful of patients actually from Africa too. It's kind of nuts to try and get their kids there, but we do it.
Yes. Yeah.
And again, it's just like, it's interesting kind of a lot of times, like we, in our culture where, pediatricians and people who aren't as familiar, right? Like we'll just kind of like, whatever, no, this isn't a thing, and then, consider some of these third world countries to almost be, I don't want to say beneath, but like not as advanced. And yet like they're pretty darn advanced. And we're talking about quality of life and we're talking about survival and we're talking about like
perspective.
That perspective.
Sometimes we lose some of that perspective in our first world society. So
yeah. And we get that question a lot, like when we're doing, our evaluations and stuff of, well, why didn't anybody tell me this when I was a baby? Right. Or why didn't anybody tell me this when my kiddo was born? And that's exactly what we talk about, like back in the day, long pinky nail, and then once the industrial, revolution and formula and bottles and, people just stopped looking for it. And now we have all these adults who sleep like garbage, who have, jaw pain, who, need braces 3, 4, 5 times. And we're working backwards to figure out what the root cause of that is. And so we work with a lot of adults too. So you're seeing patients, you're working, you're learning more. Providers are also getting into this. You also know, especially in rural, kind of east of Dallas, that lack of care, right? That lack of like, access to care, which is a huge thing of why, Kimmy and I both have telehealth practices. And so how did that kind of thought process move into a very fun conference.
Yeah,
This is
so
numero dos. So tell us, how did
yeah.
numero uno come up?
Yeah, so literally, we were sitting there thinking, how can we be able to get more of this information out there? How can we be able to help more providers provide more access to the patients in their areas? And so we were thinking about how can we get this information out there, but also how can we make it fun where it can be something that's, not so mundane, but something that can be kind of like an exciting thing to get to go to. And then birthed out of that was this idea of tequila and tongue tie, a catchy name, but also fun. And we had it last year in San Antonio, and last year was looking at a collaborative view. So we really brought in different kind of specialists within the field, not just looking at like the surgery side of things, not the procedural side, but looking at it from, a myofunctional side, bringing in a myofunctional person, bringing in a lactation person, bringing in a chiropractor, things like that, in addition to, kind of the surgical side, and really looking at it from that perspective. And it was so much fun. We had a really great time, really great feedback from all of our attendees. And so we're really excited about numero dos coming in this year. And really, we're looking at it from kind of two perspectives, from your team perspective. So we're encouraging offices to bring their team in, because it's all of us talking to the parents about it and the patients about it, and trying to make sure we're all informed, and providing that best standard of care, but also from different levels of providers within that. So we have startup offices that have just started up their practice that have chosen to integrate this from the beginning. If you can do this and make it successful, why did you choose to do this? How did it benefit you and your practice? How are you helping that be able to reach your community, but also grow your practice? From seasoned ones that have come and done it for years, that aren't new to this, but are, have been tried and true, to associates. I myself was previously an associate before opening up my office. And how can you as an associate be able to be impactful in your community and not be the owner too? And so really that was where I felt like my role as an associate was so beneficial, in bringing that value to the community I was an associate with. And in my more international community was through things like this. So you can be impactful, in many different ways in your role within that realm of the doctor side of things too, not just the owner side of it. So we're really trying to help everybody find their niche within this.
Mm-hmm. And how many days is the conference, and what are the dates for it?
Yeah, let's talk nitty gritty. The dates.
Yeah, so we can be in Scottsdale, and it's going to be in April, and then it's a Friday and Saturday. It's going to be the 21st and 22nd of April. Easy fly into Phoenix, take a little trip up to Scottsdale. It's at a beautiful resort there. We're there all day Friday and a half a day Saturday, so you can get your golfing in, Saturday afternoon, or a day at the spa, things like that. And then you can fly out the next day or later that afternoon too. So if you want to have a little quicker trip in and out of Phoenix, you could fly in Thursday, fly out Saturday afternoon. But yeah, it's going to be really fun. On Friday, we've got lectures going on in the morning, and then in the afternoon we've got hands-on. And then after that, after the hands-on, we've got a tequila tasting with a tequila master. And then we've got a fiesta party that evening. So with a live DJ going until 11 or 12 at night, it'll be fun. And then we wake up the next morning and we've got lectures in the morning. We're finished by lunchtime. So it's a pretty great, well-organized event there as far as that goes. And there's an open bar at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So yeah.
Woo! Now we're talking.
Have, whatever you like. There you go.
Currently looking up the weather in Scottsdale, you guys, if you can see that 80 on my screen, which is very different than the 41 degrees I'm seeing on my screen for Portland right now. If that's enticing to any of us who are still like freezing cold.
Snowbird.
Yeah, people usually go from Portland to Arizona in the winter because it's cold here. So yeah, lots of snowbirds down there, and Kimmy and I are both going to be there the whole time. We're super excited to connect. We're going to plan to do some lives while we're there, so you guys can get like kind of a little backstage scene of like what we're doing. We're going to be hanging out after the conference, probably in the hotel bar for anybody else who has more questions. And because it's true, right? Like there's so many different ways to get here on your tongue tie journey, right? And to see so many different perspectives. People have been doing it for a long time. People who are like, hey, I want to get my foot in the door on this. How do I do this? I think that like just the application from the conference that you guys are doing versus some of the other ones that are out there where it's just kind of like learning, but the actual, okay, great, I learned this stuff. Now we're giving you the tools to then actually go do this in your office when you get home. I think it's really a special thing that you guys are doing. Versus some of the other conferences that are out there.
No, definitely. And I would say one of the nice things about this conference too, unlike most conferences where your speakers are there for only that hour and that's the only access you have to them, you have access to these speakers the entire event. They're going to be at the happy hours. They're going to be at lunch at the bar. They're going to be at the tequila tasting. They'll be at the fiesta party. It is a very laid back, approachable. We want you to feel like you got what you came for and had a good time too. And the same thing with your staff, like we are here to support them and make sure they understand, how they can be the most successful in providing this care for the patients as well. And so last year we had several offices that brought their staff to it last year. And so we made sure to be able to meet the needs of those offices as well this year. And so we even have breakout sessions where we'll have a doctor's breakout session in the morning and a staff team member breakout session. And so they can be able to have their time to ask their questions and really have their more one-on-one time with the speakers as well through these breakout sessions. So it'll be a really fun and unique experience there as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think leading with the open bar is going to make the staff a lot more interested in coming to something on a weekend.
Yes. Last year we were like, do we have it at breakfast? And we're like, well, let's just try it. It was very, very taken part at breakfast. So even from the beginning, it was good. It was good. It was
Tequila
fun.
sunrises, right? Like
there you go. Right?
It makes the DJ party more fun too. So I love it. So who are some of the speakers who are coming? Who are some of the doctors who are going to be there?
We've got Dr. Murzyn-Dantzer. She's out of Colorado, and she's been doing laser dentistry at the University of Colorado at the there at the dental school and the pediatric program for years, kind of in and out of private practice, in and out of academic stuff. And so, I think she's been using lasers and doing procedures like that for over 10 years now. So she's kind of tried and true. So she's going to talk to us about her wisdom and tips and stuff like that, and kind of her successes and things like that. We've got Dr. Amanda Hankins out of Northwest Arkansas. So she's in Bentonville area. Yeah, the land of Walmart. And so she just opened up her pediatric practice just this last year, and she started it with laser dentistry, reaching those babies in her area from the get-go. So she's had a lot of success with that there in Northwest Arkansas. Then we've got Dr. Cherish, who's coming to us from out of California, and has 2 practices out there in California that she's really grown and does a lot of laser dentistry and meets a lot of needs for those kiddos with frenectomies and all in those areas. Even one of our team members at BioLace, they're out of California. One of their little babies went to Dr. Cherish to be taken care of. So she's helping out the tequila and tongue tie family as well. And then we've got Dr. Trudy coming to us out of Georgia. So we've got it from coast to coast and everything in between. Mm-hmm. Dr. Trudy's an associate, and I helped train Dr. Trudy on laser dentistry when she learned. And so out of that program, her and her owner doctor and integrated that laser dentistry into their office and have really been passionate advocates for that in their community. So she's going to bring to us the associate's perspective and what that looks like to be able to add value to your community, even as not the owner to the office and everything too. So we've got one more, Dr. Leslie. She's coming to us out of Houston, and she has a small private practice there in Houston, very boutique-y focused office. And so she's really fun, a lot of great energy, and she's really great to work with. So I know that people will love to get to hear from her too.
Yeah, I'm excited. And of course, you.
And me, yeah, of course, me, the El Presidente, is what I like to call it, of the Tequila and Tongue Tie Conference. That's right. So, I'll be there for sure, in fine form.
Yeah. I love it. That's so awesome. So, I love the idea of, hey, if we can do this, we learn this, you can do it too. You can take what you're learning. I always kind of like the idea of yes, we're all special snowflake humans, right? But this idea of I'm not like that special to where I'm the only person in the universe who can do this, right? Like
That's right.
you can do it. We can give you the tools. Like you really can do this. And I think that's what's so cool about this conference is it's not even so much like, hey, look at all the cool things we're doing. Look how special we are. It's like, hey, we were able to do this and now we want to give you all the secrets and you can do
Exactly.
this too. And I think
Take
that's
our
so
tips
cool.
and help your people. Yeah, exactly. We can't help them all. We need you. Just like me in rural world, I always like to say I have cows in my yard. If I can do it with cows in my yard, surely you can do it where you are too. I am not special. I just have some techniques and some things that I've done and have worked out and had some great experiences that I can share with you. And I have full confidence that many other people around the world can bring that same level of care that they want to their patients that need them the most. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What age range do you see in your office? Because I know you're pediatric. So kind of what age range do you see?
Yeah, we see from birth until the age of 18. So we normally, by the age of like 16, you're kind of phasing out in sorts of our realms. But yeah, we see them from birth, from delivery. We get them in and we assess them for tongue ties and do releases and follow-up care and all for them there, and then help them grow through infancy into childhood into adolescence. So yeah, that's our goal, is to get them through all that oral health development with flying colors.
Yeah, that's so cool. It's so cool that like you have it set up that way to where um they see you from birth and they get to hang out
And
the whole time.
what I saw all of our early referrals. So if it's like a pediatrician or a lactation consultant or a speech therapist or a myofunctional therapist that might be working with them, and they're worrying like, oh, I really think this kid needs a tongue tie release, but where can I send them to make sure? I don't want to just send them over here and then they're definitely going to get this done, whether or not, like, where can we send them is a safe place to be assessed, to make sure all the pieces of the puzzle are put together. And really, that's one of the big things that I try to advocate for our providers, is making sure that you're that safe place to be referred to, that we can all work together in that realm to make sure that we take care of that kid. And I always tell my referrals, even if they don't need it, let's say you're concerned, you're like, I just want you to take a look. What's your perspective on the anatomy here? Like, I'm seeing A, B, and C, and I'm concerned about that, but I want you to look at X, Y, and Z. Let's come together on this. And so maybe this might not be the time for it, or maybe we're going to do, E, F, and G and see how that goes. And maybe that doesn't entail a release. Okay. Maybe that doesn't need that. I tell my referrals, don't you worry about sending that over to us. That patient is still going to be established with our practice for continuing care. So we're going to make sure that even if that kid, in the moment we're working together, it doesn't need a release at this time, then they're still going to be seen for future visits with us, so we can monitor those things. We can get them established for their cleanings, their exams, their things like that. So we can monitor their growth and development and make sure they've got good established oral health care. And so that really has helped my pediatrician friends feel better about sending those over, because they felt bad, like, oh, am I sending you a bad referral? It's like, there's not a bad referral. The kid will be taken care of no matter what. If they need it, they need it. If they don't, then we'll still be here for them, because they need a place to turn to, and we can be that for them too. Yeah, I love that. And and I don't know if this is as big of a sticking point where you're at, but the idea of like, well, everybody we send to you gets lasered, so like we don't want to send everybody to you, right? Like the fact that you're like, hey, they need it, if they don't, they don't, but we're going to take care of them. That's right. Yes, exactly. We're here to take care of them. Let's make sure we're doing that. That's the most important.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Dr. Curtis, I am curious, for the Tequila and Tongue Tie Conference, what laser are you a fan of? Which one are you spotlighting for tequila and tongue ties? Like, do you have a certain brand loyalty that you just love so much?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I love to go to these laser conferences that have all these different lasers and try them all. It's just like taking cars for test spins. It's like, I know I'm not going to get that one, but I still want to try it out. It's still fun. Or like sampling all the cakes, it's like, I would like to try all of these. Let me try them all. Even though I can only get one, maybe, so I like to try them all out. My laser that I like to utilize in my office is an erbium laser. It's an all tissue laser. So I'm quite the fan of the versatility of the all tissue realm, just because in our world of pediatrics, we could use that not just for a frenectomy, but we could also use it to do a filling without doing a shot, or a crown without doing a shot, or other things, procedures like that. It's a big workhorse for us and not just for frenectomies, you know? And so the laser that I'm the biggest fan of is the BioLace water lace laser. And so that'll be the one that we've got at the tequila and tongue tie to practice on with hands on. But definitely if you utilize other lasers, it's a very open conference for that. So you come on down. If you're a CO2 fan or a diode fan, then you come on down. It'll be able to be applicable to you in those realms. But we're just going to be highlighting more of the erbium things there. And you can take the erbium for a spin too. Yeah, it'll be fun.
And is erbium a contact laser where you have to touch it to the tissue, or is it kind of like Star Wars where you're going above?
Technically, it depends on which tip you use. So we have a tip that you can put in the end that is a contact tip that really feels like a very fine knife edge. It is very, very precise, okay? And it is a contact tip. My friend Dr. Cherish in California loves that tip. She loves it because it has such that very finesse feel when you're touching the tissue. My favorite is the contactless tip, all right? It has a 1 millimeter working length. So let's say the kid moves, I'm not going to cut you. Okay, I have to be within 1 millimeter. So unlike other non-contact lasers, they have very long working lengths. So if you move, you might accidentally scratch over there or cut over there. Ours has a very short working length for that erbium laser, for the BioLace water lace. So it's a very precise working length. And I like that one non-contact one. It's an MZ5 tip. That's just the specific name of it. And it works really, really well at precisely maneuvering around that tissue to get exactly what you wanted to remove, but preserving what you wanted to keep, okay? And our laser is a cool laser, so it's not going to heat up the tissue. It doesn't look charred or burned or even like white and kind of poxy or frosty. It looks very clean because different lasers will affect the tissues differently. So it has a very low heat threshold. Sometimes that CO2, if you don't move it quick enough, like, you can get kind of the charring, or the diode, you're definitely going to get charring.
Diode for sure.
With our erbium, there's no charring. Like, it's a very clean cut. It's a very precise cut. It's very kind to the tissue. So you get a lot less of that inflammatory cascade in your biology. And so that's less pain, less bleeding, less scarring, the less interactions you have with that necrotic tissue. And so you get very, very minimal tissue interaction. That's my favorite thing about the erbium, as opposed to kind of CO2 or diode or, scalpel and scissors. You get a lot more of that interaction with the tissue.
Yeah, because when I hear BioLace, sometimes my first thought is my BioLace I used in hygiene, where I would use the laser decontamination. So I forget sometimes that BioLace has the water lace.
Yeah, and it is definitely the workhorse, particularly in the pediatric realm of things, or even in the adult world. I just did a training at a family dental office in northern Indiana this weekend, an in-office training for them, and they do a lot of frenectomies in northern Indiana, but they use it for many other procedures in the general dental world. But it really comes to shine in many different arenas in the dental world.
Yeah, that's so cool. I feel like I got out of the in-office dental world before everybody was really using lasers for more than just
Exactly.
I'm so now I'm like, wait, you can use lasers for decay and other things besides tissue stuff, because I've been out for so long and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's way cool. But then also when you were talking about how the water lace is a cool laser, I instantly was thinking of a laser wearing sunglasses. No, ours is cooler than the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we need to just have a t-shirt that says
I was going Amy Poehler and Mean Girls, cool mom vibe, but I love it. Okay, so this year's in Scottsdale. It's at the Westin. We're going to link it in, but how can people find the conference to sign up?
Yeah, so there's a link to that. So we'll share the link with y'all and you just follow that link. It's really easy to get signed up for that. And then it'll link you over to the hotel as well. And you can stay at the hotel or you can stay somewhere else in town if you want to and just Uber around, go see the sights around town and eat out some good places if you want. But hey, we've got your meals covered while you're at the conference time. So that's one of the nice things about this conference is you don't have to worry about where you're going to eat, what you're going to eat, things like that. It's all included and we've all pre-planned that and thought it all out for you. So it's a really nice inclusive type feeling for this conference. So that's a really big plus to this. You don't have to worry about snagging a meal for lunch or what you're going to do for dinner. It's all pre-planned into that for you. And your family's welcome to come too. We got that question last year too. Some people have brought their kiddos with them. Yeah, you bring them on to the dinner. It'll be a fun time. So the more the merrier there too.
Yeah, I love it. They just can't do the tequila tasting, you guys. Okay, valid ID only. Valid
maybe
ID
you could get an extra one for you. There you
go. Do you feel comfortable sharing on here how much the conference is for a team?
Oh, that's a really good question. I do, but I don't have it in front of me.
So it's since I signed us up, I already know.
Okay, go ahead, Megan.
It's $9.95 for the team. Okay. And then if you bring somebody who is non-clinical or if you bring your spouse or family member just to cover the meals, it's an extra $99 for them.
Beautiful. Thank you, Megan.
Oh yeah. I know because I signed us up.
If you think about that though, that's amazing because
it's really good pricing. It's really good pricing, by the way.
It's a lot of CE and it's a lot of stuff built into that.
Yeah. And if you take your team to like happy hour or something, everyone's drinks plus their food, that ends up being about $1,000 anyway. So that's amazing.
For sure.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great price. It's a great location. It's easy to get to. You guys are doing like great fun entertainment as well, so it's not stale. So I'm really, really excited about it. We're gonna, reach out to the other doctors who are speaking, looking at maybe doing some Instagram lives with them, you guys, so that we can get to kind of know them too. Little teasers for you guys leading all the way up to it, and then of course, you guys will get to see us there as well. So, Dr. Ben, how can people find you on social media? Obviously, we know that you're in East Texas, but how can they find you like on the web, on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook as well. Both I'm very active on. So my Instagram is Curtis Kids Dentistry. And then it's the same for Facebook. It's Curtis Kids Dentistry is my Facebook. And I post cases on there. I post our office interactions. I post resources on there. I run that account. And so if you've got questions and you message me, I'll respond. So that'll be me on there. So that's not a pseudo person. It is me. So I'll be glad to respond back to that. And you'll have to check out some of my reels too. So they're kind of funny. My East Texas reels on there, bring a little bit of that rural life home to you. So it's kind of funny too.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And of course, you guys, if you want to find us, you can find Kimmy and I at the Munch Bunch podcast on Insta, on YouTube. And then you can also find us individually. You can find me at NWMFT and you can find Kimmy at Mouth Muscle Memory. And as you know, you can find us in person in Scottsdale, April 21st and 22nd. And then also you can find us in person again at our Munch Bunch Rejuvenation and Wellness Retreat, the Dominican Republic, November 9th through 12th. Where we are hosting a retreat, battling burnout, helping people move forward in their careers, and kind of helping just your dreams come to life with some one-on-one time with us. So, you can find us everywhere, but mostly it sounds like you can find us in the sun. So, Dr. Curtis, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited to meet you in person in a couple weeks, and we're excited to drink some tequila and tell you about our functional therapy drinking game. So if you guys want to know what that is, you got to come to the conference. We're not going to tell you ahead of time.
So interested. We'll do that on Instagram Live.
There we go. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will see you. This was a bonus episode. So it's a midweek drop, but we will see you guys for Munchie Monday coming up soon.
Bye.